our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Aylia Batool. Israeli lobby groups in Washington are pushing to label the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. This and more on today's show, so stay tuned. The United States has denied reports claiming it plans to send troops into Gaza or build a massive military base near the region. A senior Pentagon official said Tuesday no U.S. troops will be deployed into Gaza. He called Israeli media reports of a $500 million base false and inaccurate. However, the official did confirm that Washington is working with international partners to develop plans for an International Stabilization Force, or ISF, to operate near Gaza. The ISF, part of President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan, would involve volunteer nations helping stabilize the territory after Israel's staged withdrawal. Israeli outlets Ynet and Shamrim had reported that Washington was preparing to construct a large military installation near the Gaza border. Currently, approximately 200 American personnel are stationed in southern Israel at a coordination center overseeing ceasefire and humanitarian operations. Satellite images reviewed by BBC Verify revealed that Israel has demolished more than 1,500 buildings in Gaza since the ceasefire with Hamas began on October 10th. Photos taken up to November 8th show entire neighborhoods under Israeli control have been flattened. Most of them were destroyed through deliberate demolitions rather than battle damage. Analysts say the actual number could be far higher due to missing data. Experts warn that these actions may breach the ceasefire deal brokered by the U.S., Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, which required a halt to all military operations. Visual analysis has identified mass destruction in areas like eastern Khan Yunis and Rafah, where homes, orchards, and gardens once stood. Similar destruction was found in Gaza City's Shajaya and near Jabalia's Indonesian hospital. Verified videos show Israeli excavators and controlled blasts tearing down structures behind the so-called Yellow Line, where Israel pledged to withdraw its forces. An Israeli military spokesperson claims the demolitions comply with the agreement. A Palestinian woman recently freed from Israeli detention has accused Israeli soldiers of repeated sexual torture. She said she was raped 4 times, filmed naked, and electrocuted during her imprisonment. According to the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, her testimony exposes a systematic policy of sexual torture against detainees. The 42-year-old woman was arrested last November while crossing a checkpoint in northern Gaza. She described being stripped, cuffed, beaten, and left naked for hours. The center said such abuse aims to crush human dignity and is part of a broader campaign of humiliation against Palestinians. It also reported that male detainees were sexually assaulted. Human rights groups have urged the international community to act immediately. They have warned that thousands of Palestinian detainees face the risk of death under new Israeli prison laws. The Hind Rajab Foundation, or HRF, has filed a criminal complaint against Israeli soldier Sharon Dawit, accusing him of torture and war crimes during Israel's genocide in Gaza. The complaint, lodged with the Greek Cypriot administration, seeks Dawit's arrest. He served as a sergeant in the 424th Infantry Battalion of the Jivati Brigade between December 2023 and September 2024. Human rights lawyer Nicoleta Sharalambidu submitted the case on behalf of the foundation. The evidence includes a verified image showing Dawit posing over a naked, handcuffed Palestinian detainee. Investigators say Dawit's social media posts, including one from January 2024, show him participating in acts of humiliation and abuse. HRF's head of litigation, Natasha Brock, says torture is one of the most universally condemned crimes in international law. Israeli warplanes launched 3 airstrikes in northern Gaza while gunfire was heard near the Borij refugee camp. The Palestinian Health Ministry reports that 3 people were killed and 4 wounded in the past 24 hours. Since the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas began on October 11th, Israel has killed at least 245 Palestinians and injured 627. Israel says it opened the Zikim crossing to allow UN and international aid into northern Gaza. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces carried out raids, demolitions, and arrests. Illegal Israeli settlers launched arson attacks east of Tulkarem, burning Palestinian farmland and vehicles and injuring several Palestinians. Witnesses say 4 dairy trucks and nearby Bedouin shelters were destroyed in the fires. Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed at least 69,182 Palestinians and wounded 170,694 since October 2023. Israeli lobby groups in Washington are reportedly leading a new campaign to have the Muslim Brotherhood designated as a terrorist organization. The drive has found intellectual backing in a report published by the Jewish Strategies Tribune titled Confronting the Muslim Brotherhood, a Practical Roadmap for the Trump Administration. The report argues that Washington should align its policy with Arab allies such as the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia to confront what it calls the ideological roots of Islamism. It urges the U.S. to impose targeted sanctions, tighten financial scrutiny, and pressure Turkey and Qatar to restrict exiled Muslim Brotherhood-linked media and charity networks. Analysts warn the proposed ban could criminalize legitimate Muslim civic groups. In 2014, the UAE officially branded the Brotherhood a terrorist organization. It also controversially blacklisted 2 prominent American Muslim bodies, the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, and the Muslim American Society. Civil rights advocates say Washington risks copying authoritarian models from abroad, conflating genuine Islamic voices with terrorism. They say this amounts to silencing millions of peaceful Muslim Americans under the guise of security. Federal raids in Dearborn have sparked outrage after 3 Muslim teens were arrested over an alleged ISIS-inspired plot. Details coming up next. Welcome back. Federal raids in Dearborn, Michigan have sparked fear and anger among Muslim and Arab Americans. The FBI arrested 3 young men, aged 19 to 20, accusing them of plotting an ISIS-inspired Halloween attack. Agents stormed 2 homes and a storage unit before dawn, seizing guns, ammunition, and tactical gear. Hours later, FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency had stopped a major terrorist plot. But many in Dearborn say the operation looked more like political theater than a real counterterrorism success. Community leaders called the case weak and the raids reckless. They say it repeats a familiar pattern of targeting Arab and Muslim youth without solid proof. Defense attorney Amir Makled, who is representing one of the suspects, told the Associated Press the young men are U.S. citizens who were video game and recreational firearm enthusiasts and that the FBI had acted prematurely. Makled added that the online conversations cited by agents were typical of bragging among gamers. Dawood Walid, executive director of the Michigan branch of the Council on American Islamic Relations, warned that federal agents are manufacturing suspects to justify surveillance. Residents are questioning whether Dearborn is again being profiled rather than protected. The city's Arab and Muslim community has been racially profiled by federal and state officials for decades. Mexico says it has filed 30 complaints with the United Nations over alleged human rights violations by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. President Claudia Sheinbaum says the cases involve mistreatment of Mexican migrants detained in U.S. facilities. She adds that Mexico's consulates are helping the affected families secure legal aid. Sheinbaum had condemned what she called the discriminatory and criminal treatment of Mexican immigrants, stressing their vital role in the U.S. economy. At least 10 Mexicans have died in ICE custody so far this year, according to Mexico's foreign ministry. Sheinbaum notes that approximately 40 million people of Mexican origin live in the U.S., with most of them in the country legally. She adds that remittance remains strong despite tensions with Washington. Sheinbaum also says Mexico will continue to seek cooperation with the U.S., but will speak out firmly when rights are violated. A Sudanese rights group says dozens of detainees held by the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, are dying from hunger, mistreatment, and lack of medical care in prisons across Darfur. Emergency Lawyers, a local non-governmental group, says detainees include civilians and captured soldiers kept in overcrowded cells with little food or medical attention. It describes the conditions as catastrophic and says several prisoners have already died. The group has urged the International Committee of the Red Cross to visit detention centers and ensure the safety of those held. It also stresses that civilians and military prisoners must be treated according to international humanitarian law. There has been no comment from Sudanese authorities or the RSF. The ongoing conflict between the RSF and the Sudanese army has killed thousands and displaced millions since April 2023. The Darfur region is bearing some of the worst humanitarian fallout. President Donald Trump has issued more than 1,600 pardons in his second term, most without following the Justice Department's standard procedures. Only 10 of those pardoned have filed petitions through the Office of the Pardon Attorney. Under normal rules, applicants must wait 5 years after release, show good conduct, and apply through official channels. Trump has largely ignored that process, granting clemency mainly to political allies, donors, and culture war figures, including hundreds charged in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Among recent beneficiaries were former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former Congressman George Santos, and Binance founder Changpeng Zhao. Observers say the system now rewards access, not fairness. A House Judiciary Committee report found that Trump's pardons erased more than $1.3 billion in restitution and fines. Thousands of ordinary Americans who applied through official channels are still waiting. Their case is stalled in Washington. Legal experts say Trump had a chance to reform clemency by creating an independent review board. Instead, they say he built a network favoring loyalists, turning presidential mercy into a political weapon. Newly released emails show convicted child sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein claiming that President Donald Trump spent hours at his house. He spent time with one of the victims and knew about his abuse of underage girls. The messages, made public by House Democrats, were taken from thousands of pages of Epstein's communications obtained by the House Oversight Committee. In one email, Epstein wrote that Trump knew about the girls. In another, he discussed how to respond to media questions as Trump's political career gained momentum. Trump has repeatedly denied any connection to Epstein's sex trafficking operation. He has acknowledged knowing Epstein years ago, but says they had a falling out. Epstein, a financier and convicted sex offender, died by suicide in federal custody in 2019. Lawmakers say the emails raise new questions about Trump's relationship with Epstein and what he may have known about the abuse. President Donald Trump is threatening a $1 billion lawsuit against the BBC after a leaked memo found a speech of his was doctored to make it appear as though he encouraged the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. The controversy has led to 2 of the BBC's senior executives resigning, including top boss Tim Davey. A new study shows that personalized vitamin D treatment can sharply reduce the chances of a second heart attack. Researchers presented the findings at the American Heart Association Scientific Sessions 2025. The study followed patients who had previously suffered a heart attack. Participants were split into two groups. One received standard care, while the other was given vitamin D doses tailored to their blood levels. The dosage was adjusted every 3 months until vitamin D levels exceeded 40 nanograms per milliliter, which is considered an optimal range for heart health. After nearly 4 years, those on the personalized plan had a 52% lower risk of suffering another heart attack compared to those on standard care. Lead investigator Dr. Heidi May said patients with heart disease should talk to their doctors about vitamin D testing and tailored dosing. While the supplements did not lower the overall risk of death, stroke, or heart failure, the research suggests targeted therapy could play a key role in preventing repeated heart attacks. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.